Questions now based on this. And if you forgot a question from the side control thing, you can ask that too, don't worry about it. Anything that's coming up from this scenario? Yeah.
When you first are entering the DLR position, are you applying that same knee pressure right away?
If possible, yes. If somebody's really in strong base and the knee is kind of turned, basically, I wouldn't bother trying at this point. Okay. So when you say when I'm first entering the DLR, now we're getting into crossover with engagement phase, and let's say I win a hand fight, I pull the DLR. Yeah, ideally that would be on entry. I would want to internally rotate your hip, turn your knee that way, because then I'm playing DLR, you're not passing. But if you get in and you turn the knee out, this is I'm not playing DLR right now. He's passing. I need to find a way to solve this alignment problem before I do anything else. So yeah, very much on entry if I can turn the knee in, and that's just a matter of pulling out on the heel and turning the shin in. And again, this isn't a DLR seminar, but people get way too focused on this. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but certainly if my partner's in a more upright stance and they don't have a deep bend in their knee, this hook it's really not productive. It's the control of the knee that comes from the inside of my thigh and the inside of my shin, and this kind of leg press, push, this. Often when I'm playing DLR, I don't have this hook in at all. Now if he's squatted, then that hook makes a lot of sense, because then that hook allows me to actually, let's just rotate around so we can see. Because then what that hook actually allows me to do, one, the tension, the counter tension between the edge of my foot against his thigh helps me with this turn. Right? So I'm using his inner thigh as a counterpoint to internally rotate my own hip. But I'm also able to use the pushing of the ball of my foot against this, inside of his thigh where it meets the hip. I'm not really pushing out. I'm not trying to find a euphemism for taint or balls or nutsack. I'm not that precious. I would definitely. It's just the iliac crest and this hip crease is where I'd be pushing to help create that. So that's definitely what I want. Much like if I play reverse DLR, if he's upright, this doesn't help me. I'll hurt my knee before I do anything with this. But if he's coming down into a knee cut, then this is really helpful, because then I can use that to off balance him. The hook is not that important. It's the actual effect of bringing that knee into the side of his knee that turns it. Was that too much additional information? No, okay. Other questions here? I can see your.
I have questions, but I don't want to talk too much.
No. The point of these questions is that it will help. Even people who feel like they want to ask a question, but they're shy about it, will be helped by your question, because it might inspire some courage. But also, people may not have been able to actively express what their question is. They may just there's some ideas floating around their head, and you may actually give voice to those ideas. So feel free, ask a question.
All right. Yeah, I know that you get into kind of squash position, and it can be really difficult to rotate your knee.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that kind of outside where you kind of take the inside knee. What's the title? And you buckle their knee outside.
Can you show me where you're talking about?
Yeah. Can you stand up for me? There's get into this position. There's that.
Yes. Yeah.
Does that
does that help draw the
Yeah.
Yes. So you're talking about an outside off balance, or we would call it a knee buckle, or where you go to play the shin sweep. That's a very common mechanism, right? So what we're talking about here is I'm struggling to get his knee to go that way because he's externally rotating his hip. So I go with that to cause an off balance. He probably doesn't want to stay here, so he's going to come back in, which now makes it easier to do that shift. We do the same thing where we do the leg press position and they drive back in, and we collect them and bring them forward, utilizing that momentum against them. So the idea of sending them to my left, their right, to get them to come back this way so we can do this is a really good one. Assuming that you're doing it in concert with their reaction, rather than if I knock you down a little bit and or you're staying here, you're not coming back in, and I'm like trying to do something now, then obviously it's not a good idea. So it has to be context dependent. But if you're asking, is that a good thing to do? The answer is yes. Okay.
So they make sense.
It makes perfect sense in that context to be trying to do that. In fact, I would argue that that's the highest expression of jiu-jitsu. It's not memorizing the move and being like, let me do this move on you. It's understanding that I want someone to go right. Maybe I'll make them go left first, and then they will go right in opposition to that, and then I can time their response. Like, it's taking what they give you based on a little bit of like trickery and manipulation rather than directly being like, I'm going to grab your wrist and wrist lock you kind of thing. Does that make sense? Are there any other questions related to this while I'm down here? Okay, so one thing I did want to go over, just because the question didn't come up, is the idea of rotational control and controlling the diagonal line or the opposite corner, or really anything on the opposite side of the body. Because when we get into this, I guess, actually let's stop here.